Welcome back. It is season 5 of the BPD Bunch. I'm your host, Xannie, and today I am here with Jack, Mo, Jay, Hak Ja and André. We're continuing our conversation from Wednesday on BPD in men and women. If this or other BPD-related topics interest you, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you do not miss a single episode. Today's question is, what's something you wish people would know about the experience of BPD in men and women? For example, like a stereotype that you would like to break.
Hi, my name is André Ferguson. I'll put Hannah. As someone with BPD, one of the stereotypes that I personally would like to dispel is the fact that I'm soft because I'm emotional. Because a lot of people have perceived me to be too soft or too needy because I'm willing to open up and speak about my feelings. And as a consequence, when they've experienced my more, let's say, militant side, it's become a bit of a shock to them because they've always seen me as a big teddy bear almost. And I think that's quite invalidating. And then they somehow forget that if you push someone enough in one direction, they're likely to sort of almost explode, and then we're perceived as being crazy. So people with BPD, I'd like to get the myth that we're not crazy or needlessly emotional. That's the long and short of it, really.
Emotions are not gendered. We gender them.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
I think it's really important just because I know that I have fallen into that trap of, like my husband is not super vulnerable in terms of like, I don't see him cry a lot. And then I go around just thinking, oh, things don't affect him. Right? I've had this problem. And then, one time he had to stop me and say, just because I'm not like bursting into tears doesn't mean that I don't have a reaction to this. And I was like, oh, that should have been obvious to me. I'm sorry.
That's another stereotype. Because I don't know about you, but I could come off pretty cold and emotional sometimes. So I'm just like done, just leave me alone. Yeah, just because I'm masking doesn't mean I'm a cold, emotional person. I'm just masking. Deep down, I'm crying inside or something. Just because something happened, I'm not expressly, being the emotion you think I should have doesn't mean it's not affecting me. Okay, I'm not a cold person. I just don't allow a lot of stuff to be so on my face because of either the environment I'm in or just the mood I'm in general. I'm not cold. We're not cold people. We're just we mask a lot and we deal with it. We do it when we can.
It's not a bias that I had against men specifically. I've always had this bias that if you're not showing me your emotion, you just don't have it. But I think because men are so much more encouraged than women to hide how they feel, that bias has ended up coming out disproportionately towards men because they're just higher masking on average of their feelings. And so then I just end up with this, oh, well, you just don't have any feelings because you're not showing them to me. I guess that's something that just in the last couple of years I've really been working on to realize like, yes, no, just because somebody is not crying doesn't mean they're not sad.
I feel like I more identify with what the men are saying. Like I can't really react anymore. I feel like it is such a big stigma thing where what we're reacting to or like our reactions are somehow invalid just because they're a lot to another person. But I feel like that's wrong. We have to get rid of this idea that just because it's a big emotion that it's somehow crazy or invalid. Like sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's not my BPD. Sometimes it's you're a shitty person and you're warranting this experience from me right now. Like, because I've had people say like, oh, are you sure it's not just your BPD like right now? Like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, excuse me? No. That has nothing to do with the way I'm reacting, right? Like you also have to take accountability for what you're doing. And I feel like things that people do to us get like brushed off so easily now because we have a diagnosis. And that's also super unfair because like everyone should be entitled to their big feelings. It's us not expressing them that's causing like these much bigger issues in the long run for everyone, because then we have explosive outbursts out of nowhere. We're not being vulnerable. We're not really talking about what's really bothering us. We're not like deepening our relationships. You know, like there's a lot of issues that come from not expressing these big feelings. So that's my take on that.
Something that came into my head listening to all of these is also that we talk a lot about the emotions and the reactions and that side of things. But there's another piece here as well, which is that people process and deal with these things in completely different ways. And sometimes that's not outward, right? Like I'm a very external processor. I talk and I go on and on and on and on and repeat myself a lot, and it drives some people up the wall. But it's not because I'm asking them for anything. It's not because I'm even reacting anymore. It's because that's how I deal with it. That's why maybe I personally feel like I'm very successful in talking therapy, because that works for me. It absolutely pairs with exactly how I process problems. But like, that's an important thing to think about. It's like not everyone is like that. Not everyone will be so expressive. Some people will sit and will think and will be more quote unquote measured, whatever. There are many different ways that people deal with emotions. And I think it's important to remember that, especially because a lot of men process inside. Of course, there are men that process inside for the wrong reasons and maybe would benefit from talking. But I guess it relates to what you said, Xannie, a little ago, right? About us like sometimes making assumptions about people not feeling things. And I guess it's the same kind of assumption could be made on that side as well.
I think that one of the more harmful stereotypes and assumptions about those of us with BPD, I guess maybe more so for women, I don't really see people say this about men as much, but if they see evidence of self-harm, they think we're doing it to show off and to get attention. And I've never heard anyone say, I'm going to show off my self-harm scars, you know. I think, you know, it gets on my nerves where, you know, if a person's wearing shorts or a t-shirt or something and you can see that they have self-harmed, you know, either recently or in the past, everyone always thinks they're doing it for attention. And I'm like, no, they're just wearing clothes that they're comfortable in and they've accepted that they have scars, you know. It just drives me nuts when people think that.
I got told a lot during like my PMS, PMDD time of my period that this is a normal experience that all women go through, and basically you just need to suck it up. Even when I was like vomiting in the bathroom from pain or like wanting to die because my brain was just like freaking out. And I would say that we need to be a little bit more honoring to the biological experiences that men and women have, because those are real issues that can really make a big difference in your mental health. And, you know, after talking to a lot of other people, I found that that was not actually the average experience, that most people didn't have it to that degree. But it was hard for me to know because I started my period at 11. It took me well into my teens before anyone really started paying attention to the level of difficulty. Biological, physical problems are problems too, and we should not minimize those.
One thing that I think we constantly have to repeat is that not all people with a BPD diagnosis or EUPD diagnosis are going to exhibit symptoms in the same way. And I think there is such a huge stereotype that people that are diagnosed with any form of mental illness, for instance, they're all going to react in exactly the same way. And we tend to then focus on the most extreme versions of those reactions, because those are the things that draw the media, for instance, draw attention to it. So it's very difficult for myself and a few people I've spoken to explain to new people that we meet that we're not necessarily as bad as that person that's described in that film or on that news channel.
BPD doesn't look the same for everyone, but also, like, it's also none of their business, you know? And if we have this diagnosis, I'm sure that each one of us has probably met majority of the criteria at some point and was that crazy person, quote unquote, but that's not like anyone's business. Also, it's very personal and it's very damaging, and it's not something that should be talked about as like a joke or that we're just crazy and that's that, you know. People need to learn that recovery is possible. Treatment is like very much possible. It's not this crazy stigmatized thing that's impossible to fix. We can reduce our symptoms.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. We hope you got a nugget of wisdom to take with you on your journey. Sunday, we have our first episode of our brunch series for season 5, so check that out. And then next Wednesday, we'll be back with a brand new episode topic. So we'll see you next time.
Right. Ta-da.
Peace.